Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. Have you ever been driving and got stuck in some type of thunderstorm or some type of adverse weather, and maybe there was torrential rain, and you pulled over to a gas station or some type of store and you sought refuge in that store, and you kind of just hung out there until the rain subsided, till perhaps the floodwaters receded, and then you could get out and then continue on your journey? Well, we have a similar idea found in Psalm 57 with David in connection to God. And this was during the time when he fled from Saul in the cave. And this is what he says in verse 1. He says, "Be gracious to me, O God, be gracious to me. For my soul takes refuge in you, and in the shadow of your wings I will take refuge until destruction passes by." In other words, I'm going to take refuge in you, in the shadow of your wings, until the calamity, the destruction, the hurricane, whatever you want to call it, passes by. And so he saw that God was a place of refuge. God was his hiding place in that difficult situation. And the same thing is true with us. Not necessarily talking about weather, but talking about, circumstances in our lives where situations become hard pressing and we have maybe difficult conversations we have to engage in, or difficult people we have to deal with, or maybe it's just a financial problem, or whatever the trouble might be. We can do the same thing that David did in his situation, and that is take refuge in the Lord. Find the Lord as our hiding place, and to hide under the shadow of his wings until that problem, that trial, that difficulty passes by. And now, as we say that, one might wonder, well, what does it mean to take refuge in the Lord? It sounds great, but of course, the Lord is not some type of rock, a physical rock that you can get underneath. He's not some type of physical barrier necessarily that we can get in and hide in. How is it that we can find refuge in the Lord? Well, we can at least look at what David did as he sought refuge in God, and get an idea of what the particulars, what the practical side of taking refuge in the Lord is all about. And one thing that he did is found in verse 2. He says, "I will cry to God Most High, to God who accomplishes all things for me." Part of making God our refuge and hiding under the shadow of his wings is crying out to the Lord, bringing the problem to the Lord, and bring it to him, all the while trusting that he accomplishes all things for us. So we, in faith, give our problems to the Lord and cast our burdens down, as we talked about in a previous devotion. But then the other thing that he did was he worshiped. In verse 7 it says, "My heart is steadfast, O God, my heart is steadfast. I will sing. Yes, I will sing praises. Awake my glory, awake harp and lyre. I will awaken the dawn." So praise is a really good way to find refuge in the Lord. We're bringing the problem to the Lord, yes, recognizing the hardship that we're in, but then our hearts are just lifted up in praise to God. And whenever we are praising and worshiping the Lord, it really puts our mindset in a whole different position. And it causes us to look at things from a different perspective. And it really does tend to lighten our load when we have our eyes fixed on the glory, the majesty, the wonder, the greatness of God. And so that's another way that we find refuge in the Lord. But then also having a grateful heart. In verse 9, he says, "I will give thanks to you, O Lord, among the peoples." And then he says again, "I will sing praises to you among the nations." But the idea of giving thanksgiving to the Lord, having a heart of gratitude. Whenever we're going through a hardship, a trial, a difficulty, it always helps for us to look at the silver lining, to look at the good things that God has done, to remember the things that he's done in the past and thank him for those things, but also look at the blessings around us in the present moment and thank the Lord in that way. And that too will get us in a different frame of mind and help us to look at things in a more positive light. And so that can help us as well. And so these are three main ways that we find refuge in the Lord, or three things we do while we're finding refuge in the Lord: crying out to God, praising God, and then thanking God. Those three things, if we just start with those three things, we'll really find ourselves more and more being drawn close to the heart of God, being brought under the shadow of his wings, and we'll find ourselves in a hiding place until the storm passes. And if nothing else works out for us in our life, at least we'll have our hearts fixed on him, and we'll have our hearts attuned to him, and we'll have the right perspective and the right mindset as the storm is passing by. So these are some things we can reflect on and think about as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.